Alabama is quietly becoming one of the most popular retirement destinations in the Southeast, and it's not just because it's cheap. Between the tax structure, the healthcare access, and what your money actually buys you here, more and more retirees are choosing Birmingham over places like Florida, Tennessee, and the Carolinas. In fact, according to a 2025 migration study, Alabama saw a net gain of nearly 1,800 retirement age adults in a single year. And that number keeps climbing. But here's the problem. Most people researching Birmingham for retirement only see the highlight reel. They don't understand which suburbs actually make sense for their stage of life, which ones don't, and where their retirement dollars actually go the furthest. So in this video, I want to break down 5 Birmingham suburbs that make a lot of sense for retirees, and I'm going to give you the real numbers, the trade-offs, and the stuff that most relocation videos don't talk about. Now, before we get into the suburbs, let's talk about why Alabama in general is showing up on more retirement lists. Because if you've been watching this from out of state, maybe you're in California, Illinois, New York, or even Florida, there's a reason people keep looking in this direction. First, let's talk taxes. Alabama doesn't tax Social Security income at all. It also fully exempts pension income. We're talking public pensions, private defined benefit pensions, military retirement pay, all of it, regardless of how much you receive. And for retirees drawing from 401k or IRA, Alabama offers an additional exclusion of up to $6,000 per person per year, so a married couple over 65 can exclude up to like $12,000 combined from those distributions. And y'all, that's a meaningful number on a fixed income. And then there's property taxes. Alabama's effective property tax rate sits around 0.37 to 0.38%. That makes it the second lowest in the entire country, right behind Hawaii. To put that in real dollars, a typical Alabama homeowner pays somewhere around $800 to $900 a year in property taxes. And just for comparison, the national average is over $3,200. So if you're coming from a state like Illinois or New Jersey, where property taxes can run $8,000, $10,000, or even up to $12,000 or more a year, that difference alone can completely change your retirement math. And then there's the homestead exemption on your primary residence. And depending on your county and your age, that can knock out even more off of your property tax bill. It does vary by county, so definitely check with a local tax advisor on your specific situation. But this is what I would tell a client. Your monthly housing costs in retirement isn't just your mortgage or your purchase price, it's the ongoing cost of ownership. And Alabama keeps that ongoing number very low. Now let's talk about cost of living. According to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, Alabama's regional price parity index sits about 88.8%. That's roughly 11% below the national average. And I'm not just talking about housing. We're talking about grocery runs about 3% below the national average, healthcare runs about 4% below, and services are about 15% cheaper here too. So when somebody asks me, Zach, can we actually live on a retirement income here? The answer is typically yes, and with more breathing room than they expected. So here's what that means in real numbers. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditure Survey, the average retiree household spends around $60,000 a year. And if you apply the Alabama cost of living discount to that, you're looking at a meaningfully lower housing, lower services, and lower healthcare costs across the board. That extra margin month to month, that's the difference between just getting by on retirement and actually enjoying it. The second reason Alabama keeps showing up on retirement lists is for healthcare. And I'm not just saying we have hospitals. UAB Hospital in Birmingham has been named the #1 hospital in Alabama and the #1 hospital in the Birmingham metro area by US News and World Report for 12 consecutive years as of their 2025 and 2026 rankings. And they're nationally ranked in 5 adult specialties, including rheumatology, ear, nose and throat, and neurology, and neurosurgery. And Newsweek placed them in the top 50 hospitals in the United States in their 2024 World's Best Hospital list. So for retirees, that matters because being 10 or 15 minutes away from a nationally recognized medical center is not the same as being 45 minutes from a regional hospital when something happens. And it's not just UAB. In 2024, UAB Health System acquired St. Vincent's Hospital, and the network now operates over 130 locations across all 67 counties in Alabama. So with more than 3,000 hospital bed systems wide, you've also got Grandview Medical Center on Highway 280 and Brookwood Baptist Health in Homewood. Y'all, when I'm working with retiring clients, healthcare proximity is one of those things that either matters a lot or it hasn't mattered to them yet, but it will. Now here's where most retirement videos about Birmingham get it all wrong. They'll tell you that Mountain Brook is great for families, Hoover's got good schools, and Vestavia is a good mix between the two. And none of that really helps you if you're 65 and you're trying to figure out where you're actually going to live. Because retiring here is a completely different equation than moving here with kids. So before we dive into the 5 suburbs, let me give you the framework I use when I'm sitting down with a retiring client. I'm looking at 4 things. 1, what does your housing budget actually buy here? 2, how close are you to healthcare? 3, what's your day-to-day lifestyle going to feel like? Are you walking to coffee? Are you driving 20 minutes for groceries? Are you near a park? And 4, what's the ongoing cost of ownership, taxes, HOA, and maintenance? And depending on how you answer those 4 things, the suburb I'd recommend changes completely. So let's walk through them. First up, we're going to start with Hoover, and I know we did a deep map tour on Hoover, but that video was for families, relocators, and people trying to understand the whole suburb. For retirees, I want to talk about why Hoover specifically makes sense, which parts to look at, and which parts you probably want to skip. Hoover's probably the most common suggestion I make for retiring clients, and it's for one reason: convenience. You've got shopping at Patton Creek, maybe Galleria, over at the Stadium Trace, or even over on the 280 side of town. You've also got multiple parks throughout the area. You've got Aldridge Gardens for a peaceful afternoon walk. And you've got a lot of restaurant options ranging from casual neighborhood spots to nicer sit-down areas. And you're never more than 10 to 15 minutes away from UAB or Grandview Medical Center. So if you're retiring and looking at Hoover, here's where I'd point you first. Number 1, the Preserve at Moss Rock. This is one of the most visually distinct neighborhoods in the entire metro. It's got that front porch, village-style charm, walking trails, right outside your door is Moss Rock Preserve, and they have some cool neighborhood restaurants. And the homes here are newer, they're lower maintenance, and the HOA typically handles a lot of the exterior upkeep. The downside is, it's on the pricier side of Hoover, so you're probably looking at least $500,000 depending on the home size and the exact location. Number 2 is Ross Bridge, and this is that resort-style retirement play. You've got golf, sidewalks, and local restaurants within the community itself. This whole community is built around the idea of staying active. So if you're that kind of retiree who wants to walk to dinner, play golf on a Tuesday morning, and have that master plan community feel, Ross Bridge is definitely going to be on your list. The trade-off, though, is you're further southwest in Hoover, so if you've got frequent appointments at UAB or you're constantly going downtown, that drive's going to matter. Number 3 is the Bluff Park area. This is for that retiree who says, I don't want a brand new subdivision, I want an older home with character, bigger trees, and something that doesn't feel cookie cutter. And Bluff Park sits up on Shades Mountain. You've got Bluff Park Diner, Mr. P's Deli, and a bunch of other local spots. They're not chain restaurants, and you're closer to downtown Birmingham and UAB than any other part of Hoover. The trade-off is older homes mean more maintenance, and not every home has been updated. But I will say most of the area around Bluff Park doesn't have HOAs like the other areas we just talked about. There's also a couple other areas that can make the list as well. It just depends if you're okay being a little closer to the schools and the ballparks. You've got Stadium Trace and Black Ridge, Lake Wilburn area. I know there's a lot of retirees that live in that area. They actually don't mind being by families or by kids, and they just like the atmosphere there. They've got sidewalks, they've got neighborhood pools, all the amenities. You got gyms inside of the neighborhoods as well. So if you're somebody that likes to stay active, maybe be a little closer in, or maybe you've got family that live inside the neighborhood as well, these areas might be a good fit for you too. All right, next up on the list, we have Vestavia Hills. And if Hoover's that convenience first retirement, Vestavia is definitely a classic established retirement. This is one of those suburbs where a lot of people age in place. They raised their kids here, their kids moved out, and they never left. And once you understand why, it makes a lot of sense. Vestavia Hills sits right next to Homewood and the Mountain Brook area, and it's one of the closest suburbs to downtown Birmingham and UAB. We're talking 10 to 15 minutes to the medical district in most cases. You've got the Vestavia City Center for shopping and restaurants. Nothing massive like the Galleria, but it's convenient, walkable, and easy. You've got parks like Wald Park and McCallum Park, and the neighborhoods are also older, more established, and probably a little more quiet. Price-wise though, Vestavia can range pretty wide. On that lower end, you might find a smaller ranch-style home in the high 4s, low 500s. On the higher end, especially in Liberty Park or Cahaba Heights area, you can easily see homes pushing over $750,000. But here's what I would tell a retiring client about Vestavia. You're paying for proximity, you're paying for an established community, you're not paying for new construction or resort amenities like the other areas we just talked about in Hoover. Some of the pros about Vestavia Hills is you're close to healthcare, quieter neighborhoods, mature trees, sidewalks in many areas, and a strong community feel. You got lower density than Hoover in most parts, but some of the cons are you've got older housing stock. That means more maintenance. And if you're trying to find a truly low maintenance newer home, Vestavia has fewer of those options than Hoover does. The good thing is property values do hold here, but you're also competing with families who want the school district. So if you don't necessarily need to be by those school districts, you're paying a premium for something you won't actually use. And this is what I would tell a client about Vestavia. If you want to be close to everything without living downtown, and you like an older, more maybe familiar style area where people know their neighbors, Vestavia should be on your list for sure. But if you want a newer home with lower maintenance and resort style amenities, Hoover's probably going to be a better fit for you. By the way, if you're new here, I'm Zach, and I help buyers and relocators navigate the Birmingham market every single week, including a lot of retiring clients who are trying to figure out if Alabama is the right move for them. So if you want to go a little deeper on these suburbs or you're ready to start looking now, just click the link in the description. It takes about 45 seconds to fill out, and we can set up a strategy call where we can walk through this stuff, custom tailor it to you and exactly what you're looking for. Now let's move to the next area, Helena. And y'all, this is the one that surprises a lot of retiring clients because Helena doesn't always show up on those best places to retire lists, but for the right person, it makes a ton of sense. And here's why. Helena sits about 25 minutes south of downtown Birmingham in the Shelby County area. It's grown a lot in the last 15 years, but unlike some of the faster growing suburbs, Helena has kept a lot of its small town character, especially in the Old Town Helena area. You've got Buck Creek running through, the Helena Amphitheater, which hosts a lot of events. You've got local restaurants and a walkable little downtown area that feels nothing like the big box retail zones you see in Hoover or maybe even Vestavia or Alabaster. And price-wise, this is where Helena really stands out for retirement. Most homes in Helena fall in that mid to upper 300,000s, maybe even over that $400,000 range. And for that, you're typically getting more square footage, more yard, and a newer home than you get if you were in a closer in suburb at the same exact price point. So if you're moving from out of state and you've got 350 to 400,000 from selling your previous home, Helena lets you stretch that dollar further than Hoover or Vestavia would. Now here's the honest trade-off. Helena's further from major medical centers if you're looking at 25 to 30 minute drive to UAB, maybe a little more depending on traffic, and if you've got frequent doctor appointments or you want to be 10 minutes from the hospital, that's actually going to matter a lot for you. But if you're relatively healthy, active, and if you want more and quieter space and more home for your money, Helena is definitely worth understanding. The retiree who thrives in Helena is usually someone who says, I don't need to be close to downtown. I want a nice house, a neighborhood where I can walk in the evenings, and I want to keep my cost of living low so my retirement income goes further. And Helena checks all those boxes. And one more thing, Old Town Helena has become a real draw. You've got that coffee shop, the amphitheater, concerts, the creek access. It's not a big city downtown experience, but it gives you that walkable community feel that a lot of retirees miss when they leave a larger city. And for some people, that alone is enough to put Helena at the top of their list. All right, let's go a little further out. Chelsea, Alabama sits about 30 minutes southeast of Birmingham along the Highway 280 corridor. And if Helena is the value play close in, Chelsea is the space and nature play a little further out. Chelsea's been growing steadily over the last decade, but it hasn't lost that more rural, spread out feeling yet. You're getting larger lots, sometimes half an acre or more, and newer construction available at reasonable prices, and you're right next to Oak Mountain State Park, which is one of the best outdoor recreation areas in the entire state. Over 9,000 acres of trails, fishing, mountain biking, beaches on the lake, and if you're that kind of retiree who wants to hike, kayak, or you just want access to thousands of acres of green space, Chelsea, Alabama puts that right outside of your door. Price-wise, Chelsea typically ranges from that mid-300s to that mid-400s, though you can find homes below and above that depending on the neighborhood and the acreage. For what you pay, you're getting significantly more land and more home than you would in Hoover or Vestavia. Now here's what I would tell a client about Chelsea. Number one, you're on Highway 280, and if you spent any time in the Birmingham area, you know exactly what I mean. 280 traffic is a real thing, especially during rush hour. So if you're retired and you're not commuting during peak hours, you can avoid a lot of that traffic. But if you're constantly going back and forth to Birmingham for appointments or for family, that drive is definitely going to add up. And on paper, with no traffic, it's about 30 minutes away from Birmingham, but with traffic, it's closer to an hour or maybe even more in some cases. Number two, you're further from major hospitals. Grandview Medical Center is on 280 and it's closer to Chelsea than UAB is, but depending on exactly where you are in Chelsea, you're still looking at like a 20 to 30 minute drive to get to a major medical facility. For some retirees, that's fine, and for others, especially if you've got ongoing health needs, it's going to be a deal breaker. So Chelsea makes the most sense for the retiree who says, I want space, I want to be near nature, and I'm willing to drive a little for healthcare and shopping in exchange for more land and a quieter space. Look, it's not for everybody, but for the right person, Chelsea gives you a version of Alabama retirement that's harder to find closer to the city. All right, and last on the list, I want to close out with Pelham, because Pelham is one of those suburbs that a lot of retiring clients overlook, and I think that's a huge mistake. Pelham sits right between Hoover and Alabaster, and it's one of the best priced suburbs within 15 to 20 minutes away from downtown Birmingham. The median home prices here typically land in that $320,000 to $350,000 range. And for that, you're getting access to basically everything. You're right off I-65, you've got Oak Mountain State Park minutes away, you've got the Pelham Civic Complex, there's an ice rink area, you've also got newer retail and restaurants along the Highway 31 corridor. And you're only about 15 to 20 minutes away from UAB in downtown Birmingham. Now, Pelham doesn't have that one big downtown square like Helena does, and it doesn't have that golf course resort feel that Ross Bridge does. What it does have, though, is location, value, and access. And for a lot of retirees, that's exactly what they need. And the value proposition is hard to ignore here. If you're comparing Pelham to Hoover, homes that might run you $450,000 to $500,000 in Hoover's central areas can often be found in Pelham for like $300,000 to $340,000. That's a $150,000 difference in purchase price for a suburb that's literally 10 minutes down the road. And for someone on a fixed retirement income, that difference changes the entire monthly budget for them. So Pelham makes the most sense for retirees who say, I want convenience, I want value, and I don't need a lot of bells and whistles. You're not getting that resort lifestyle, you're not getting the charming walkable downtown, but you're getting a solid home at a solid price, close to healthcare, close to parks, and close to everything that the Metro has to offer. And this is something that I tell retiring clients all the time. You don't have to fall in love with the suburb on Instagram, you need to fall in love with how your daily life actually works there. And for the practical day-to-day retirement, groceries, doctor's appointments, dinners out, walking the dog, seeing the grandkids, Pelham works really well for a lot of people. Now, before we wrap this video up, I want to address something that comes up in almost every retirement conversation I have. A lot of people comparing Alabama to places like Florida, and for good reason. Florida has been on the default retirement destination for decades, but y'all, the retirement math is changing, and it's changing fast. Here's what's shifted. Florida's cost of living index sits about 101.4. That's essentially right at the national average. But the bigger story is homeowners insurance. The average homeowners insurance premium in Florida is now between $7,000 to $11,000 a year, depending on who you ask and what coverage level you're talking about, compared to a national average around $2,500 to $3,500. In Alabama, well, depending on your home, your location in the state, and your coverage, you're looking at a meaningfully lower premium in the Birmingham metro area than you would in coastal Florida, especially when you factor in hurricane deductibles and flood zone costs that don't really apply here. And it's not just insurance. Alabama's property taxes are the second lowest in the country. Social Security is fully exempt, pension income is fully exempt, and home prices in the Birmingham suburbs run anywhere between 30 to 40% below the median price for comparable homes in Florida's major retirement markets like Sarasota, Naples, or the Villages. Now, Florida still wins on certain things: no state income tax at all, beaches, and that established retirement infrastructure with tons of 55 plus communities. And I want to be straight with you. Alabama does have state income tax with rates up to 5%. But if the bulk of your retirement income is coming from Social Security or pension income, which is the case for most retirees, your actual Alabama income tax bill is very likely closer to zero because the sources are fully exempt. Definitely double check with a CPA on that. I'm not trying to give advice there, but just wanted to point out a few things. So the math works. For this video, we're talking about the Birmingham Metro, and the honest reality is your retirement dollars are probably going to go a lot further here than almost anywhere in Florida right now. All right, let me bring this home. If you're sitting across from me as a client and I had to give you the simplest breakdown possible, here it is. If you want convenience, shopping, restaurants, and the most options, go look at Hoover, focus on the Preserve, Ross Bridge, Bluff Park, Stadium Trace, Lake Wilburn, Black Ridge. Depending on your lifestyle, it's the area that you're going to want to pick. If you want older, established neighborhoods, close to healthcare, and you don't mind older homes, Vestavia Hills is where you definitely want to be. If you want the best value for your dollar and you're okay being a little further out, Helena and Pelham both deserve your attention. Helena if that small town walkable feel matters to you, Pelham if pure value and access matters more. And if you want space, nature, and you're willing to trade proximity for acreage, Chelsea is definitely worth the drive. And here's the most important thing that I can tell you. Don't choose a suburb from a YouTube video. Come visit, drive the neighborhoods at different times of the day, see what the grocery store run actually feels like, because retirement isn't about finding the prettiest house, it's about finding the place where your day-to-day life actually feels good. So if you're thinking about retiring in Birmingham or really anywhere in the surrounding suburbs, feel free to reach out. My link's right there in the description. Again, it takes 45 seconds to fill out, and we can set up a strategy call at your convenience. On that call, we're going to walk through a lot of what we already covered here, but it'll be more custom tailored to your specific situation. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to see similar content, make sure you're subscribed below and give this video a like so it gets out to more people. And if there's another area or topic you want me to cover, whether it's retirement related or just moving to Birmingham in general, drop it in the comments. I'd love to get your feedback. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.